Welcome to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. You know, Davos is finally over. But have you paid your bill yet? Oh, I see. You didn't realize you had to pay for the self-described great and good. Ha, 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 Stacy.
Well, Max, actually, while we've been saying this, as you see, the German fighter naval ship is exiting the city of London. I think, speaking of bills that have yet to go unpaid, they're trying to collect their gold. They got 30 tons out of the U.S. Lord knows how much they're taking away now.
Yeah, well, a fat chance of getting any of that gold. I mean, we broke the story here a few years ago that the Bundesbank didn't really have the gold, and then that started a whole scandal, and now it looks like they'll never get their gold. Ha ha, Germany, ha ha.
Regarding Davos being finally over, I wanted to point out this Davos discount, and this is from The Economist. It's a chart of the underperformers, i.e. those companies that send executives to Davos. In 3 of the past 5 years, they've underperformed the S&P 500 and the MSCI World Index by up to 40% since sending their executives up to Davos. Now, why could that possibly be?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. It's what Adam Smith talked about. When you put a bunch of businessmen into a room, they will collude to fix prices. And so when you go to Davos, basically, they stop being competitive. They don't need to be competitive. So the stocks underperform because they're no longer being competitive enterprises. They do side deals, they do off-balance sheet deals, they collude, they rig markets, they pay each other enormous bonuses. So their stocks start to become less compelling because Davos is a place, or Bilderberg is similar, where executives go to collude. So their competitive ability collapses. Look at Microsoft. Microsoft, you know, one of the great underperformers for years and years because it has a twice convicted predatory monopolist who goes to these confabs on an annual basis, but they don't compete. They just have a predatory monopoly, and that's not the same as capitalism.
The other thing, of course, is that they're colluding with known con men and fraudsters. So you're likely to be defrauded if you think, you know, a lot of people thought they were on the same side of Bernie Madoff. They knew he was doing something wrong. They knew he was defrauding somebody, but they thought they were in on his fraud. And a lot of people go up there and think that they're in on the fraud with these fraudsters. And that's why they pay a lot of money to go up there and meet these fraudsters.
No, it's a great place to meet celebrity fraudsters. You know, we live in an age of celebrity fraudsters, whether bankers or CEOs. They become huge personalities in their own right, the same way gangsters in the 1930s, like Al Capone, became very famous. Now we have Jamie Dimon. He's a very famous bank executive. For what he is, his criminal record is what stands out. He paid enormous fines over the past year. They gave him a huge raise because he's a celebrity CEO crook.
And also, I would imagine they go up there and they're surrounded by an echo chamber. So it's bias confirmation. They go up there, a few dozen people go up there. They're all the 85 richest people in the world that own as much as the 3.5 billion at the bottom. And they come away with the notion that it's like crystal knocked. And those 3.5 billion people who are upset with them, this is a guy from Kleiner Perkins, one of these very wealthy guy, who wrote an editorial saying that the bottom 99% anger with the top 1% is just like crystal knot. So this is, I think, what they go up there and they come away thinking this sort of stuff.
Oh, you mean Tom Perkins'
Yes.
editorial comparing the plight of the top 1% with Kristallnacht?
Yeah. Speaking of German warships.
Yeah, I mean that famous day in Nazi history where the Nazis declared open season on the Jews, and they were murdered and their shops were closed. And so Tom Peters is equating the plight of the 1%, which is sad. I mean, Aaron Swartz is really his being pursued to death by Chris Dodd and the MPAA. That was more of a crystal-knocked moment in American history.
So now let's look at this Davos discount and apply it to perhaps, you know, the governments, the politicians, the heads of state that also go up to Davos, like David Cameron was up there this year. So let's look at the Davos discount, which can be applied to the UK economy and GDP and the wealth of this nation. Judge the Royal Mail sale in 3 months, said Vince Cable. Time's up. Today's share price confirms the company was grossly undervalued, cheating the taxpayer out of billions of pounds. So remember, just after the Royal Mail was made public and Vince Cable set the price at 280p, And when it popped by like 30–40%, he said, don't count this. This is just speculation. Come back to me in 3 months and see what the price is then. Well, it's up to 610p, and that means that the British taxpayer has lost 2.8 billion pounds in wealth that they could have had for their Royal Mail, which they built up over a generation.
This is part of Britain's program, or pogrom, since we're talking Kristallnacht, of selling off the jewels of the British economy to private shysters, whether it's the Royal Mail, which they mispriced at the behest of criminals like J.P. Morgan. In any ordinary contractual context, there would be a clawback provision that would allow for the mispricing to be overcome by having the ability to claw back funds, in this case back to the British people who built this asset over a number of generations. But those types of clauses are not available for the average schmuck that lives in Britain who's exposed to financial terrorism on a daily basis and just has to suck it up, baby, suck it up. It's Kristallnacht.
Now, regarding this sale, of course, it was Goldman Sachs and UBS, which floated the company, that took the company public. And Goldman Sachs and UBS, the companies, paid a stonking £16.9 million by the government for managing the privatization, were questioned about the price discrepancy by a parliamentary committee in November. They denied any impropriety, claimed the 330p price was correct according to their research, and described the whole fiasco as a well-executed transaction. Less than a week later, Goldman Sachs issued a note to its investors advising them that the price of the shares would settle at about 610p, which they have now settled at. Now, J.P. Morgan at the time told the government when they were in for the running of taking the company public, the Royal Mail, they said it would be 600 to 700p. So they could have gone with that. Instead, they chose, for some reason, to leave 2.8 billion pounds on the table for. How did they end up losing that money? It's the Davos discount. It was the kickbacks from some party. They were disco dancing on the dance floor with Jamie Dimon or Lloyd Blankfein in this case, and a deal was struck.
Right. I mean, it's incorrect to say there was no impropriety. The Goldman Sachs is, in that case, lying. There was an impropriety. As usual, and the problem coming out of the 2008 scandal is that the banks that were caught committing fraud during the subprime crisis, the CDO crisis, the LIBOR rigging, the Forex rigging, the gold market rigging, the energy market rigging, those banks never suffered any consequences or regulatory overhaul. They've been told, in fact, that to be a crook is to be rewarded, and Jamie Dimon is the poster child for this. Why should Goldman Sachs obey the law? Why should HSBC obey the law? When here's a guy, Jamie Dimon, who's broken the law innumerable times, and they gave him a big, fat $20 million payday to be a celebrity crook. There's no incentive to obey the law. If you're below the line, if you're living on a council flat, and you're starving, and you need to steal a donut to keep another day afloat on this planet, then you're going to jail.
Well, I like the idea of a celebrity crook, and it could be, you know, a celebrity crook TV show, because people like reality TV shows, and that's the only way most people ever learn their information or know information about the culture and society around them.
Yeah, they like celebrity cooks, except they're celebrity crooks. Everyone liked those celebrity cooking shows. This is a celebrity crook show. So instead of cooking, let's say, brownies for some celebrities, Jamie Dimon and KPMG or Deloitte & Touche or Ernst & Young or the other one, they can cook the books that they're so good at. They've been proven to cook the books, and there's Jamie Dimon cooking the books. He's a celebrity crook on A&E or some network, some crooking show, and there he is. He's a celebrity crook, and then let's all celebrate the fact that people like the Royal Mail float absolutely hammered people with a horrible deal. They sold a jewel. That income, those shares are now in the pension accounts of Germany. The German people are getting the income from the Royal Mail. All European states around the world that have a functioning welfare state like Germany and others, they bought those shares because they want the income from Mr. and Mrs. Joe Baga Lager here in Britain, putting their little postage stamps on packages, putting it into the big red box. Okay, 10p of every transaction goes to some, German Frau living the good life on your hard work, suckers.
Well, let's roll back the tape and look at that German warship that was coming down here. They were probably investigating their little investment in the Royal Mail. Now, of course, the UK government left £2.8 billion on the table. That is 6 times more than this bedroom tax, which is throwing old people out into the street, very severely disabled people out into the street. People have committed suicide based on this.
That's crystal knocked.
Yeah.
Right there, the government and the bedroom tax. Let's throw the British people out onto the street, and it's open season to commit violence against our own people. That's crystal knocked. That's Osborne and Cameron's crystal knocked. Tom Perkins. It's not Tom Perkins. The fact that you have to spend $30,000 on a hooker at Davos this year does not mean you're suffering. If you're in the bedroom tax, you're thrown in the street and you're starving to death because you've been scapegoated by you, Tom Perkins. You're the perpetrator of the Holocaust, Tom Perkins. Wake up to your own reality.
Well, they call it well-executed transactions. That's this financial holocaust, this financial wipeout, this meltdown. Of course, everything is going wild again, of course, in the markets, but they call it a well-executed transaction. That's the Davos discount. That's why if you go up to Davos and mingle with these people and go disco dancing with them, and Lord knows what else they do in the middle of the night, you're going to end up with a 40% less than when you went there, as the Economist chart showed. Now, regarding all of this, what do you do, the revolution, I want to show a little clip from the Juice Wrap News.
Turning now to tax and finance with Max Keiser.
Oh boy, feeding boat people to sharks in Australia? I know what you're thinking. Hell, that sounds a lot like the central banks are what they're doing to the nation's wealth. Right, Stacey?
Robert.
That's it, they just rob it.
How can we stop it?
Bypass the Fed's pockets, fight kleptocurrency with cryptocurrency. That's the solution. Behead the banksters with the Silver Axe Revolution.
Revolution? What's pop culture got to say? Russell Brand? What, Robert? Am I a mere celebrity? Am I not a man? Ain't I got brains, synonyms, metonyms in my gut account? What if I spoke all grandiloquent? Would you better understand? And Keiser, revolution's my idea.
So you say, but do you have a plan? I do. Bitcoin. Buy today.
Bitcoin? I'm the Messiah.
Well, Russell Brand recently called for a revolution, and so did I. Except Russell Brand has nothing to back up his
Call
for revolution.
Yeah.
But I do. I have the Bitcoin, as well as monopsony.
You can say that now. You must have got some treatment.
Yeah, I can say monopsony, like the program to save the NHS.
Yes.
Okay, those are real hard things one can do. Russell Brand is just, shaking his locks around. He has no plan at all, except to say, "Oh, I'm worried. I'm concerned."
Well, and finally on this, I will say that the blockchain would have prevented this well-executed transaction by which the UK taxpayer lost 80%, left on the table with the Royal Mail deal. So had this all been on the blockchain, all of our contracts, all of our ownership, all of our wealth on a blockchain, we would know what we really had and who was stripping who.
Is it a well-executed transaction or a transaction geared toward execution? All right, Stacey, thanks. We got to go.
Ciao.
Stay tuned for the second half. A whole lot more. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Luke Mitchell and Jordan Fish, key developers of MaxCoin. That's right, MaxCoin. We're going to mine the Genesis block right here on this pre-recorded live television show. Luke and Jordan, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us about the MaxCoin. What is it? We'll start with you, Jordan.
Well, it's an altcoin, another one of them, but we've added some special stuff in.
We have indeed.
Okay, let me go to my next question. When you set out to create a new crypto, as you are doing right now, this MaxCoin, what are the first questions that you need to ask? Such things as the hashing method and rate. What are the options? Why have you? What have you chosen for MaxCoin? Look.
Well, at the moment, there's a lot of altcoins that are kind of clones of Bitcoin or Litecoin, and that don't really have any special features per se. They're just clones where somebody's either tinkered with the amount of coins in circulation, often for maximum profit, or they haven't really altered the technology in any way. So we set out to make one that was, in some respects, different and better. So we have a new hashing algorithm, one called Kechag, which is the SHA-free hashing algorithm selected by the NIST. So there's a consortium of people that chose over 5 years the most secure hashing algorithm to use.
Okay, stop. Let's roll back for a second.
Okay.
Hashing algorithms, or hashing as the term, let's just talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So in other words, a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, every 10 minutes or so are released into the community after the proof of concept has been run for all the transactions up until that moment.
Yes.
And that's a hashing
That's a hashing function.
The hashing function, which is up for Bitcoin, is up to like 5 petaflops or something, some
Yes,
enormous amount of
huge
energy.
amount of power going into it, and
Right.
that is essentially increasing the trust in the network every single time a block is mined. And the hashing algorithm is the mathematics that underlie that
It
principle.
confirms all the transactions.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you've got a hashing methodology that is better in some degree, so talk about that, or different.
Well, it's different in that it's the most current up-to-date one. So SHA-256, which is what Bitcoin uses, is the previous generation of hashing function. So whilst it's tried and tested, it's also slower, and there are attacks known against it. So we decided, let's use a new one, let's use Keiser, which is, as I said, it's been selected after 5 years of rigorous competition. So we decided to use that. And we also thought about trying to launch a crypto coin in a way that is really fair and that utilizes parameters that isn't only beneficial to the developers.
Or early adopters.
Yeah.
I should
or
mention
early
you guys are
adopters.
from Bristol University,
Yes,
which
we are.
appears to be a hotbed of this type of technology. Also home of the Bristol Pound, another alternative currency.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
to get to your point here, with this mining that goes on, there's a point now where people are using these very expensive ASIC mining rigs
Yes.
to mine coins, which is essentially mining is the word used to solve these mathematical problems that releases the coins into the community.
Mm-hmm.
So you're suggesting now that this is not expensive mining, ASIC mining, not required.
Well, for the moment, yeah. So if we launch using a new hashing algorithm, there aren't any ASICs that are tuned or created at the moment in order to solve a crypto coin problem using this hashing algorithm. So if you have Bitcoin, then most people can't afford to buy an ASIC miner, so they don't really have any chance of mining their own coins.
So there's a bit of barrier to entry.
Exactly.
Because the
There's a massive entry
mathematical
barrier.
problems get more difficult as the mining progresses to make it it's a limited supply and to create that mining analogy.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even with script coins now, people have GPU farms set up. Every script coin that comes out, they can use the same set of GPUs to mine it. With a new one, you can't.
Okay, let's mine the Genesis block right now.
Okay.
So open up your laptop, and this is going to be the launch of a crypto,
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah, indeed.
This is exactly what happened to Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. This is the
Well,
moment, we're recreating a moment that
We
he
are
went.
recreating an event.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's called MaxCoin. It's an alternative currency, an altcoin, which is going to be trading alongside other altcoins, and there are now 100 or so altcoins. But let's go ahead. So you are going to mine the Genesis block. Proceed.
Proceed. Okay, I'm doing so. It's not overly exciting, I'm afraid. I'm going to warn you.
Basically, you're hitting a start button.
Yes.
So what happened just now? So
at the moment, when you mine a Genesis block, you need to set up a few parameters within the code. So we need to give it the time at which we're going to mine it. You specify a particular string, something along the lines of Max Keiser launches his own altcoin. And then you let the transaction work for a little while, and eventually it spits out the hash for the first coin in the blockchain, which is the public ledger that details all of the transactions up to date. And that's what mining constitutes, is adding to that ledger. So I'm going to quickly build the application and let it run. And in a second, it's going to tell me the Genesis block hash.
I can feel it. I can
Yeah,
feel
it's
it
happening
in
right
my
now.
mind. I feel as though you're mining my mind. This is a psychic equity conversion. I simply thought about currency, and now it exists in some kind of cyber dimension. But let's talk about people's discussion about crypto, and it's becoming quite huge, of course, because Bitcoin's become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's spawning all kinds of startups and venture capital. There's a question about all these altcoins. Where do they fit into the universe? Does creating multiple altcoins, does it dilute the whole Bitcoin crypto experience? What are your thoughts?
I think some introduce people to Bitcoin. I think Doge will have brought people that wouldn't have bought Bitcoin into cryptocurrency.
I'm sorry, what?
The Doge coin.
Doge.
Yeah.
Or Doge.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Doge, the Doge of Venice. The Doge is, I believe, or maybe Doggy. But okay,
We'll go with
so this is it's a $60 million capitalization of a crypto coin, and it's launched really by a community using exactly what we just did.
Exactly, this technology.
Right, but different parameters.
Yep.
Different mining parameters, different hash rates,
hashing
different
algorithm, exactly.
Right. And so, but it has this very thriving community, the people that support it, and as such, because more people support it, it has a rise in market capitalization. And you're saying that it's important, it's good, because it's drawing people into the crypto space. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the target audience for that coin is very different to the Bitcoin target audience, but it gets people into cryptocurrency. And I think there are some altcoins that are detrimental to Bitcoin because some are just released as pure scam coins, insta-mined or pre-mined. So I think fair distribution is really important when you do launch an altcoin. The altcoin environment kind of seems like a place where you can test new features. So you can try something out, like ZeroCoin is trying out a shared blockchain, so you can't see who gave money to who. On the Bitcoin blockchain, you can see every transaction processing. On ZeroCoin, they don't want that to happen at all.
You know, going to this whole crypto experience, I mean, a lot of people, when Bitcoin was first launched, they made the comparison to SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which was a program that allowed all laptop CPUs to join in and solve problems for, I guess, NASA to sort through radio frequencies. And they were using the network to, the combined distributed network, to do something that no one computer could do. And you have a distributed network effect.
Yeah.
Here, with a cryptocurrency, instead of having one central bank, you have a distributed central bank of tens of thousands of computers, like this one now with MaxCoin, but others with other cryptos or Bitcoin, that are essentially hashing the hashing algorithms in place. They're solving these problems. But the idea is it's all distributed, right? That's the big difference between a cryptocurrency and, let's say, the dollar or a pound, is that they're all centralized with a central bank.
Yeah.
This is a decentralized currency. Is that an important feature? And what do you think?
Well, I think so completely, because I think it gives power back to the people using something. It essentially means that you don't have to trust a third party in order to control your money, to look after it, to maintain the system, because everybody who has a vested interest in it, who has their money in Bitcoin, say, is running the client and is contributing to the network. And I think you've seen it with other technologies such as Tor, which is massively important for encryption, but things like SETI and folding at home, which are distributed scientific proof of work. I think decentralized networks are almost the future of the internet, because it means you don't have to pay somebody in order to sit there in the middle and mediate something. You get to contribute yourself, and it's everybody else doing the work. Now,
you're in Bristol. You know, our show, Keiser Reports in the UK, we have 2 million viewers here in the UK. We have 20 million worldwide.
Okay.
You guys have seen our show, undoubtedly. And we're always bashing bankers. We say they're all basically scum.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as students, is that message resonating to the, and is that part of why you're going into a crypto environment? In other words, there's a transition going on in finance and around the world. You're this kind of next generation to step out into the world stage. Is this what you see as the banking, is this what you perceive as banking today? Versus, let's say, the old school HSB, Barclays, all the scandals that they're involved with. Are you willing to just say, to hell, screw you guys, this is banking now, this is the new 21st century reality?
I would like to see that happen. I've paid for beers in Bitcoin now, I've paid for bits and pieces in shops, and as far as I can tell, there are more and more websites and vendors that are starting to accept it. And if it gets to the point where I can live my life without having to use a bank, where I can control it on my phone or from my laptop, I see no problem in doing that.
What's the story with Kitty Coin? Okay, because Jordan, talk about Kit. Is it? I mean, and again, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Kitty or Kitty, but it came out after Dogecoin. So what's up with Kitty Coin?
It's become a bit of a penny alt. And
a penny alternative. Okay.
Yeah, like penny stocks. I bought it at 2 Satoshi, I think, and then it had like a panic rush up to about 35. And then you tweeted about it, and it had a panic rush up to about 130. I don't know what it's currently at. I think it's about 90 right now.
Right, so you paid a Satoshi for it. Now, Satoshi is a subdivisible of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, the lowest divisible amount.
Which is was it divisible to 8 places? Or 8 places. So that's a Satoshi.
Yeah.
And you, on one of these crypto exchanges, like, was it Cripsy?
I bought it on CoinedUp.
CoinedUp.
Which is the slowest site in the world.
It's the slowest site in the world. That's not a good thing. But can people, MaxCoin will be listed where?
We have CoinZ, so they'll list it straight away.
CoinZ, okay.
Yeah, we have another exchange that we've written ourselves.
Yeah, we have an exchange in the works at the moment.
Okay.
Which will just be MaxCoin's Bitcoin.
So people can convert pounds into MaxCoin on an exchange, and then they can convert it into Doge, Kitty, or Bitcoin, or dollars, or pounds, or yen, right?
Yeah.
So it's, to get back to this point, we only have about 30 seconds, but any crypto transactions that are pulling money away from the fiat world is decapitalizing the fiat world and decapitalizing all the fraud of the fiat world. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. The market caps of altcoins are getting kind of silly now as well. I think a few of them, I don't know what the Bitcoin market cap's at right now, but there are a few more that are just enormous.
Can the MaxCoin take on Doge? It's got a 60 million market cap. I mean, can we get MaxCoin above 60 million in market cap?
I think that's the aim.
Doge, you're going down, Doge. Forget Kitty. All gone. Well, we're out of time, guys. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being on the Keiser Report. And we'll obviously be tracking this very closely in the Keiser Report. And anyone who watches this show is going to get a leg up on mining these coins. So thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guests, Luke Mitchell and Jordan Fish, creators of MaxCoin, the most exciting altcoin in the universe today. Now ready to be mined. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.